Alright, so things are looking better and better for Outriders. It seems that the new update has made quite a big impact on the number of people who got their inventories wiped. We will talk about that in this video, as well as a ton of replies from the developers. And by the way, welcome back to another Outriders gameplay and news update. We have quite a lot of stuff to discuss about, including a new form of player outrage. For some reason, some people think that with the new update we also got a bunch of shadow nerfs, which is totally not the case, so we will also address that here in this video, and let's jump right into it. Now, with that out of the way, let's talk about, of course, the inventory wipes. Are they still occurring? And I also made this poll earlier today. Now, of course, it goes without saying that this is not fully representative of what's happening within the player base, but I'm glad to see that way less people are reporting that they were experiencing inventory wipes. And I've asked this a few hours ago: did anyone experience any new wipes following yesterday's Outriders update? And over 90% of you at the time of making this video have responded no, and about 9% of you guys have responded yes. Now, I'm not entirely sure if the remaining of the 9% did get the question, like I specifically asked if the inventories occurred after the new update. Now, it's true that there are still a few remote wipes happening here and there, but they shouldn't be permanent. So if that happens to you, totally let me know in the comment section down below. But also checking online, it seems that this issue is either almost completely fixed or not happening too often as it used to be, for only a few remote situations here and there. Which also means that over the weekend we have some great news, as if things go well and we continue with this, it means that the restoration is going to happen sooner rather than later. I kind of want to see it in the beginning of the next week, and if things go as planned, we're likely going to see it from Monday and onwards, which is going to be super awesome for everybody who's been waiting for it. But at the same time, I also have to address, well, a couple of elephants in the room. Yes, this is a pretty crowded room right here, one of which is the fact that for some reason people did not get the patch notes, or well, the big disclaimer that was over there, which is like super easy to read, so I'm not entirely sure why that was the case. But it seems that a number of players did not get the memo, and that is the fact that they should only report new wipes that were happening after the new update. Instead, we have a ton of people who are reporting wipes that they already reported before, or that happened before the new update even like went into effect, such as this one right here. So right now we have the new thread filled with useless reports from previously that were already taken into account previously. So if you already experienced like a wipe before this new update, rest assured that the team already knows about it. So one user on Twitter even asked, how do you even know who got wiped? Like, it just happened to me and I don't know what to do or get on the list for the fix. And they pretty much mentioned that we can identify affected users via our backend analytics. There is no need for you to take any action. You will still benefit from our future restoration plans. It's so funny that it ended up with the player base essentially turning on to itself, with one of the users having this to say. I will ask if no one else will. Is half of this sub illiterate? Of course, in the context of the fact that people completely missed out the point of this update. The new thread for today's patch states several times that the patch does not, I repeat, not, I repeat it again for some of the guys in the back, it does not restore wiped inventories or fix corrupted characters. What it does is preventing possible future inventory wipes. Of course, many members of the sub are still a little afraid to log in, so naturally they go to the thread for wipes that happened after the patch, just to be sure that it doesn't occur anymore, or that it at least occurs less often. And every single comment on that thread is some person that read patch and inventory and wasn't mentally able to read any further before wasting a comment about how they lost their inventory last week and still cannot log in. So yeah, I don't believe for a single second that any of these people are illiterate, as yeah, Tegra over on Reddit also put it. They simply read two words and immediately made an assumption without reading the full context. So as they mentioned, this doesn't fix yet anything, and it doesn't restore yet anything. That's going to happen if this update goes as planned, which is to prevent any future inventory wipes, which for now seems to work really well. I'm seeing way less reports, and even the reports that already are in, like this one, are pretty much from the old wipes that happened before this new update was implemented. So yeah, pretty funny situation. I don't blame these people who don't read the patch notes, honestly, because nobody has, like, well, most people don't have time to fully read patch notes every time they get out or things get broken. That is why I'm here reporting on these things, making them as easy to follow as possible, and also going over other questions that people might have had, so maybe you can find your answers in a full-on video really quickly. But going back on track, one person asked if a character wipes while they wait, can they start a new character and get all their previous stuff back still? And the answer, which should be obvious, as long as you don't delete and overwrite the affected characters, absolutely you can go ahead and do so. So just keep that in mind. You can play with another character, just don't delete the one that is currently wiped or inaccessible. But I also want to go over some other stuff, like including replies to people's problems. Do you have an ETA when the inventory and character will be restored? Which was a very legit question, actually, because I do want to see this really soon. So the ETA depends on a chain of events from now, which is why it's not possible to provide it today. First, we want to ensure that the patch is working as intended. If that's all good, we then import the final analytics data that is required for the restoration. Given the size of the database, this can take some time. Then we'll ensure that our tests with the data are also successful and are restoring everything we're intended to. With those things in place, we will be able to provide the ETA on the restoration. We are of course working to an ASAP timeline, as we want you to get back in there without delay. We'll have news about next steps early next week if it all goes well, and fortunately enough, for the past day or so since the new update, things are indeed going well. I'm seeing way less reports, but at the same time, also on the same reports, are you folks taking the data from the users who submitted wipe responses on the previous threads? Thank you for your hard work and transparency, and of course the reports were super helpful in helping us compile a pattern of what was happening, but we are able to see everyone who was affected via our database analytics, so we don't need to manually work through all of these, which honestly sounds good. At least that means that they will take a much faster time to maybe fix these things, and like if they already see who lost what, maybe it's gonna be easier for them to just restore all of them at the same time. Of course, also taking into account that they will have to first test the restoration, as the Archon mentioned before. Now, on a final note, I want to talk about the so-called shadow buffs or shadow nerfs that a lot of people have been reporting. Some of them were even reporting nerfs that were already in place for over a week from the first and only rebalance change that we had up until today, which was essentially last week. You know, when the Trickster, the Technomancer was a little bit rebalanced and some of the abilities were a little bit nerfed. So what about the shadow buffs and nerfs you did server side a few days ago? PCF, you think we didn't notice that the monsters do more damage and you reskilled some skills / cooldowns without giving any statement to us? We noticed your shadow buffs / nerfs, so we want a statement about it, is one of these disgruntled replies right here over on Reddit. Of course, first of all, it doesn't make any sense. I've been playing CT15 non-stop for the past week, every single day, back to back, non-stop, and I can assure you there was not a single nerf, at least on the Trickster there wasn't, that I have noticed. I'm clearing things as fast as always, maybe even faster because I just got better at the routes, but honestly did not notice a single change. And one of the examples right here was with critical analysis. I believe that this is for the Technomancer, and people notice that there is a reduction from 30% to 15%, when in reality this was already nerfed in the first and only rebalance change from earlier last week. So this is just the thing that they forgot to add in those patch notes, but it was always there. So having just checked with the design team, I am indeed confirming that this change was made and was intentional. It was left out of the balancing notes by mistake, which I will take responsibility for. The Archon mentions right here, so poor poor the Archon, he's gonna get annihilated in the comments. But hiding the change was not intentional, so I do apologize for the confusion. I've gone back and added it to the notes now, but people who played Technomancers already knew about it, and the fact that it was reduced to 15%, so I'm not really sure why this makes any sense. But otherwise, that was pretty much it. I'm not seeing any balance changes. I don't believe any nerfs or balance changes have been made other than the things we previously announced, with some players right here saying that something definitely feels off all of a sudden, like for example health regen. They felt fine with the health regen, but all of a sudden it seems to be taking 2 seconds before weapons leech actually heal. Another one, I run Boomtown with 0 problems pre-update, just tried again and died 3 times just from walking out the door at the very beginning. Now this is, by the way, I think that there's a bug right now in the game where if you shoot the door before it opens up, it's going to aggro all of the enemies, so they might spawn right in front of it and immediately shoot you at once. Case in which, yes, you can get wiped, but that was before this update as well. Like, this was a trick you could use to make things faster and like group enemies together better right before the timer started, or at least before the next area would be available, which was a good tactic. It still is, you just have to know what you're doing. So if you accidentally shoot a door, you're going to attract aggro. And by the way, this works with NPCs and enemies too. If enemies shoot at a door as you're passing through it or you're waiting for it to open, it's going to attract the enemies too on the other side, so be careful with that. But that was always in the update. But you know what, if you experience something like this, totally let me know in the comment section down below, because if this is indeed an issue, then I think that it should be brought up to light and we should get a clarification on that, if it happened or not. But this is it with the update. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.